Ezra Mam is back for the Broncos.
Yeah, I think common sense. He played great last week. He served his suspension, and I think they need him. I think that a couple of the outside backs have been locked up a little bit, and hopefully he can lock it up and get that relationship going with Adam Reynolds. The Broncos need to get back in the winning circle.
Yeah, well, he didn't serve the suspension he should have served. You know, he should have got a lot. He should have got a lot longer, and I think most people, when you put common sense into it, agree. However, he is back, and he will be a bonus for the Broncos that they probably shouldn't be getting at the moment. But yeah,
I agree. I don't think he should have been playing at all this year. But you know,
what, the whole year?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I don't think he should have, Gordy. I don't. I think the NRL were really weak about their decision on Ezra Mam.
Isn't it stronger than what the court gave him?
I think that's the cop-out.
it doesn't make it right.
That's what the NRL says was the reason why they didn't...
But that's why we got a court system.
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's the NRL's game.
Yep.
You know, it's the NRL's game. They get to decide what the punishment is. So, but that's all by the by. To be honest, like you know, and that's nothing personal against Ezra. That's just what I personally feel. Yeah. But he's served his time. He made a great comeback in Queensland Cup last week, and he deserves his place in that side. And he's come back at a perfect time for Michael Maguire because they need him.
Yeah, they do. He was electric last week in Queensland Cup, so it's good timing for them. But you're not alone with the opinion that you do have of Ezra Mam, but he is back. But did Madge underestimate how tough of a task it would be going up to the Broncos and turning them around from where they were last year into a successful team this year?
I'm not too sure about that. Look, everyone knows that the Broncos coaching position is probably the toughest in the game because it's the biggest club, it's got the most members, it's a one-team town, or it wasn't before the Dolphins arrived, and a lot of coaches have struggled up there, aside from Bennett. It's hard work. I question Madge's appointment to start with, given more so what had unfolded at the Rabbitohs and what had unfolded at the Tigers. I thought it would eventually end in tears. I wasn't so sure there'd be trouble 10 rounds into the season. That's the biggest concern.
Look, I saw what Buzz, I spoke to Buzz today about his, the blues that he's having with Michael Maguire, and it's good theatrics, but, there is plenty of noise out of Brisbane about players being unhappy there. That they just... And to be honest, I think that's only natural. Like, is anyone surprised that Michael Maguire is a little bit too intense for Brisbane players early on? Like, he's got a reputation that precedes him. When Michael Maguire got the job, I think people forget, remember he said that the New South Wales job and the Kiwi job had mellowed him and that he changed as a coach? Well... Not necessarily, but I suppose the proof will be in the pudding on whether, like I think, but we're 10 rounds in, they're 7th on the ladder.
Yep. But they've
gone on a big boat cruise that didn't seem to have the intended result.
They've lost 4 of their last 5. Mate.
That's right. I get that, Claude, but let's just judge him.
Okay, so then let's just
judge him when we get to the end of the season.
The players didn't like Kevy, and then he was maybe a softer, more of an attacking touch, and now there's Madge that's come in the other. So who do they like then? If players whinged last year, apparently, because that's why they did the review, and they're whinging this year, well, who do they want?
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you, mate.
The players need to take responsibility.
100%.
If you look at the coaches, they are polar opposites, Kevy and Madge. And like you said, Gordy, they were complaining about Kevy last year. Now they're complaining about Madge. They were always going to complain about Madge because Madge was going in there to do a job, train them hard, and probably train them they hadn't seen for a long period of time. And the way that he approaches players, and you can see that in the difference of the two personalities. They're always going to be a little bit shell-shocked. But
it's going to be a shock to the system.
It was going to be a shock to the system. But Madge would have probably hoped by now they would have bought in and got used to it and understood why he's doing what he's doing. But it doesn't seem to be the case. So
any way you look at it, Braith, he has to read the room. Because it's like you just said, Webby, he had this problem at South Sydney. Like when he won the comp first up in 2014, I remember Richo saying he's got a job for life. They sacked him within 3 years.
Yeah.
And then he went to the Tigers. And the same drama's unfolded. And the fact that we are 10 rounds into the season, he has to read the room. If it is a problem... He's got to realise it's a problem, and he has to make some changes because at the end of the day, you can put it back. You can put it back on the players, though. But it's the coach's responsibility to get the best out of the players.
But they signed him to be Michael Maguire. You can't be two different
You know
people.
who's got a real problem here if this just doesn't work out is the management of that club, because that hasn't changed. They're 4 coaches
They're in the
8
bushes.
seasons. 4 coaches in 8 seasons they've gone through. If this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I don't think we've been too premature. I really do. Like, as I said, I know they've lost 4 or 5, but it's early day. We're 10 games into his first season in the job.
And everybody-
It's a bit
last year they had
too
a lot of
early. It's a bit too
injuries.
early to be saying that it's not working with Michael Maguire at the Broncos.
So do you think
haven't
I know
worked
people
right?
want to leap to that conclusion, but it is too early to.
But
be
history
saying that.
shows that when they go through Origin, there's no Payne Haas, no Paddy Carrigan, that's when they do struggle.
Yeah,
That's where they
and
have
the back end of the
That's
season
where
too.
they have this
Do you think
slump.
the players will shift? They'll buy in. They'll turn.
Well, again, to be honest, it's going to be a test of the strength of management. Really,
But you're
Like, they're going to have to. They'll
you're
have to
saying
be.
he deserves till the end of the year, which I agree with you with. But do you think that he has the capability of turning them around and the players shifting their opinion and apparent opinion?
Well, if they don't, then are they going to get rid of another coach, or are they going to start moving players on?
a good
Are they
ex-
going to start moving players on?
a good example-
Because I reckon that's what probably that's got to be the next move
Yes.
from the
Didn't Madge
Broncos.
say in his press conference, you need to look in the mirror? Maybe all of them do.
Sure.
Yeah, but a good example is, and we spoke about it last night with the boat, right? Madge comes in with his hard nose and apparent baseball bats or whatever, and he's tough.
Wasn't the inflatable
He's
one.
tough on the players. But then he calls a boat trip, which is no alcohol, no music. He gets a motivational speaker in, one of the best sailors. I think it was Tom Slingsby, who's part of the sailing GP, and he's gold medal winner. So he gets him on a boat, gets him to talk to his players. It's a nice, relaxing afternoon out. And then I hear the players complain about their preparation for the game. Well, what do you want? He's trying to shift. He's trying to find ways. He's trying to mix it up. And he's getting criticised for both. But also the players aren't responding. So, yeah, look, they do need to look in the mirror.
I don't